This meeting is being recorded.
Cool. So observability administration, and away we go. So the agenda is essentially we're going to be doing 3 labs. I do have some slides to preface, so there will be content, of course, but essentially we're going to be going pretty quickly into labs. And what we're going to do is set up 3 different environments to bring data into Sumo Logic. We're going to use AWS, we're going to use Kubernetes, and then we're going to use OpenTelemetry. And we're going to go through them together. And if you have accounts, I'll talk about the details of the accounts you need in a few moments. But essentially, we'll install these and see how they work. So that's kind of the game plan for today. Like I said, I do have some slides to preface, so let's go through those. The first one, and maybe most important, is a reminder of that Uber Eats or Swiggy voucher, but the free food is really what we're promoting. So as a reminder, take the exam, pass it, and then fill out the form. And I'll put this form in the chat again, just because somebody will ask for it. And so certainly take advantage of that. Now the objectives for today, what are we doing and why are we doing them? Well, the objectives for today are as such. What we want to do is basically the goal of today's session as a whole is to demonstrate how to set up observability solution for monitoring and observing a modern application with its infrastructure. So how do we do that? So what we're going to do in this session is learn 3 things: how to set up the AWS observability solution, utilizing CloudFormation templates, and use it efficiently to observe an app at the stack level. Then we're going to go ahead and take a look at the setup of Kubernetes in your system or our system and use it efficiently for end-to-end observability of the infrastructure. And then finally, we're going to see how, or actually do, set up a tracing with OpenTelemetry and use some ingested data to observe a modern app and drill down into transactions. So that's the game plan for today. As a reminder, we covered some of this yesterday, but observability, once again, just means being able to ask any question you need about your application and how customers are interacting it. And so with Sumo Logic's observability solution, it's going to include those capabilities to observe an app at the AWS stacks, observe the platform technology, trace microservices based on application and components. And so let's start to begin with the AWS observability solution. Now, modern applications are becoming increasingly complex, and so they're leveraging distributed technologies, cloud infrastructure, containers, orchestration tools. In addition to connections between the microservices, the orchestrators, the underlying cloud resources, that adds to the growing complexity. Time taken to isolate or diagnose services or resources that might be the immediate cause of reliability issues becomes the main concern. And there might be no tribal knowledge that can help guide the SREs in the right direction. Moreover, monitoring the critical indicators of reliability, such as errors or latency, is going to be difficult, and in turn makes monitoring the issues more painful. With the AWS observability solution that we're going to start to utilize, it's going to provide a framework to simplify the monitoring and troubleshooting of your AWS cloud infrastructure. And so, a little bit too fast. And so as we start to talk about AWS observability, we're going to look at the solution that provides that framework to simplify the monitoring and troubleshooting of your AWS cloud infrastructure. Utilizing some Sumo Logic apps for the AWS observability solution that can help us isolate problems faster. And minimizing the time it takes to get operational and security insights across your AWS infrastructure. So how does the Sumo Logic AWS observability solution work? Well, here's a pretty good indicator or illustration of it. Essentially, the Sumo Logic observability solution is going to allow us to define and manage an AWS CloudFormation template. And we're going to use that template as a basis for provisioning stacks in a selected target account across specified AWS regions. So with this template, what we're essentially going to do is declare the AWS resources we want to create and configure. Now, why do you want to use a CloudFormation template or a template, but specifically CloudFormation? This template is going to be a declaration of like I was saying, the AWS resources that make up a stack. And the template is going to be stored as a text file, and the format is going to comply with JSON. So it's going to be a JSON or YAML standard. Since these are just text files, we can go ahead and create and edit them in any text editor and manage them in just a simple source control system with the rest of our source code. But to deploy the AWS observability solution, we need to use an AWS CloudFormation template. Using this template, we can go ahead and declare, as it shows here, the AWS resources, once again, we want to create and configure. The template's going to allow us to automatically set up automated collection of logs and or metrics from AWS to Sumo Logic and install out-of-the-box dashboards in Sumo Logic. In the CloudFormation template, you can declare or need to declare an object as a name value pair or pairing of a name with a set of child objects enclosed. The syntax is going to depend greatly on the format that you use. The only required top-level object is that going to be that resources object, which we're going to need to at least declare one resource for. Now, I've mentioned the term stack a few times, and you may know the term. If you don't, I'm about to explain it. So what am I referring to when I say a stack? Well, when you use AWS CloudFormation, you're going to be working with templates and stacks, and I know I'm using the term again. And so you're going to create templates or utilize templates to describe those AWS resources and their properties. Now, whenever you create the stack, the CloudFormation is going to provide those or provision those resources that are described in your template. So a stack is essentially a collection of AWS resources that you can manage as a single unit. And in other words, you can create, update, or delete a collection of resources by creating, updating, or deleting stacks. All the resources in a stack are defined by the stack's AWS CloudFormation template. A stack, for instance, can include all the resources required to run a web application, such as a web server, a database, and networking rules. If you no longer require that web application, then you would simply delete the stack and all the related resources that are deleted. And then all the related resources would be deleted. Excuse me. All right, one more slide, and then we get into our activity pretty quickly. And what I wanted to show here is pretty much an overview of what we're about to do and what steps are needed to set up the AWS observability solution. Excuse me. So what we're going to do, as it says here, is, it actually doesn't say here, but what we're going to do is first is we're going to go to the documentation, and we're going to click a specific URL to invoke the AWS console. We're then going to log into the AWS console with our credentials. So hopefully you have credentials that you can utilize to participate with today. If you don't have credentials, you'll, I guess, watch me. And that's perfectly fine. Once we go ahead and provide the values to set up the AWS observability apps, we're going to go ahead and configure everything. So set up the account alias, specify the CloudWatch metric sources, specify the log sources, things like that. We're then going to set up the parameters to define or point to, essentially, the AWS CloudTrail sources, the Lambda data, and the root cause Explorer sources. And finally, once that's all entered into the template, we're going to then create and verify. So we will then create the stack that creates the AWS stack where all those resources are specified in the template. And then we'll confirm and ensure the data is being reflected in the dashboards that can then be shared. So that's what we're about to do. It's going to take about 40 minutes or so. Might take longer, might take less. If you can participate in this lab with me, great. If you can't, we'll just watch and go through it. But away we go. And I'll give you a little bit more before I say away we go. I have some credentials. I have a few more slides, things like that. What I do want you to do first is log into the system. So for today, if you've joined us prior in the week, we've kind of flip-flopped on credentials that we're using. Today, we're going to use the training admin accounts. So we want to use training plus admin, number at sumologic.com. And I'm going to paste these into the chat. The password for today is going to be security 22 exclamation point, all capitals. So go ahead and log in to the training environment. Small enough group that I don't really need to know your credentials, although if you want to tell me you're logged in, that's helpful, but not required. All right. And I'm going to log in as well while the screen is up here. So. And let me just log out of this user. I want to log in as the same level of access that you have. So we're playing on the same field. And the password, as I just said, is security.
Josh, this is
Yes.
Ajit. It says the password is expiring in 7 days. So would you
Yes.
mind sharing the new password? I understand your password changes first of the month, right?
Yes. So remind me later and I'll show you where to get that if that's okay.
Sure.
Only because we haven't set the new password yet. So I'll just remind me, like I said, during a break or at the end, and I'll show you where to get that information. So good question / point. As just mentioned, these passwords are good for basically the month. And so on Monday, we'll have a new password for you guys. So, but at least we can get in today.
Sure.
And so for now, I would just ignore it. Okay, so logged in, and really doesn't matter what screen you're on. Let's go ahead and get just to the front of it. Still have a few more slides here, so just wanted to get everybody in. Now, here's going to be the prerequisites to participate in this lab exercise. And I have a sense that you probably were not notified before this class that you needed AWS credentials. So if you have some and you can participate today, great. If you can't, yeah, like I said earlier, you just got to watch. But this is what we're going to utilize today. We're going to use Sumo Logic metrics. We logged into Sumo. We're using the metrics that are in our training account. We're going to use some role capabilities. So we'll talk about that a little bit. I think we talked about a little bit of that on Tuesday. So we'll talk about it later. We're going to use some collectors. We're going to use the access ID and keys, and we're going to utilize those AWS credentials. So this is a prerequisite list that we should send you ahead of time. We're not currently, that I should correct, but hopefully you can at least, like I said, observe if you can't participate. And what you need to know before you deploy, and not necessarily before you deploy, we're actually going to pull this information out right now. Hey, James, you got a question?
Oh, I was just going to say if they can mail the PDFs out and like the local stuff that we installed, if they could tell us about that in advance so we could create a virtual environment instead of dropping on our own personal boxes where I've got all my personal financial stuff and you know what I'm saying?
No, I totally am, James. That's a great point. We're actually been working on that. That's a project that I probably should be accelerating based on your comment, is that virtual environment so you don't have to do this on a laptop. So agreed. It's not a best practice to do so. And so along those lines, certainly if you're kind of weary of playing along today, I totally get it. So yeah, that's a great feedback, James. In fact, once we do get that back, I might have you participate and help troubleshoot a little bit, because that's the future. So good point. All right, so let's go ahead and let's jump in here and let me give you the lab guide. Speaking of, as James mentioned, lab guides, let me paste that in here as well. These both should be the same document, so it doesn't matter. And so once you get that, that'll be PDF, it's in the chat. Hopefully you can all grab that. And so we'll utilize that today, of course, for the majority of today. So lab 0, as before, is just logging into the training environment. As pointed out, it has a password. It says it's valid for 30 days, but it will expire on Monday. So what you can do, although I do want to show Harjeet and everyone else how to get to the new password so you can feed yourself essentially, but you can always email us at training@Sumo Logic to ask for the latest password, but I will show it to you later. So lab 0, like I said, you logged in. So lab 1, what we want to do is now basically utilize the CloudFormation template. So what I want us to do, and for some of this you'll be able to play along with even if you can't truly participate. What we're going to do, and I'm going to kind of let's see, sorry, I'm hedging here a little bit. What I was saying is, so we have you create an access key first, and let's go ahead and do that. We might as well do that and get that out of the way. I believe we did this on Tuesday, although I might be mistaken. But what we want to do is we want to create a access key and ID pair that we can utilize for authentication. When I'm setting up this CloudFormation template, I don't want to give my username and password for many of the reasons James mentioned earlier. And so I want to use a alternative authentication method. So what I'm going to do here is pretty simply, and there's a few ways to do this. I think you saw that the other day. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my user, in this case, training admin 234. I'm going to select preferences, and then I'm going to select add access key. When I click add access key, I'm going to need to give it a name. I'm really not very creative in my names. I'm going to call it test. That's good enough name for you. And feel free, of course, to be a little more verbose, but it just doesn't matter on the name. And then I'm going to click create key. By doing so, I now have an access ID and key pair. And I'm going to use these in a few minutes. So, and these can be used also for the API. As you saw, they can use for the collector setup. Where else can they be used? I guess those are the two major places. All right, so now I'm going to go, and let me see how to keep a few windows going here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and open this link. And this is going to take us to Sumo Logic documentation, specifically deploying AWS observability. The reason I'm using this is it's going to allow me, or it's going to point me to the steps I need to utilize to call the AWS CloudFormation template. So what I want to do is go to this page, and then, although we changed the page, I'm just going to go ahead and click. Well, it should. Let's see. It's okay. So what I'm going to do is just click that URL to go ahead and invoke the CloudFormation template. So it should actually be in here. I need to change that step. I apologize. So what we want to do is go into deploying with AWS CloudFormation, and we wanted to go ahead and open the CloudFormation template. When we do, if we're logged into our AWS account, it would bring us directly into this ability or template to create that stack. You may need to log in just depending on, if you've logged in before to your AWS account. Now, what we're going to do here is, and what we're doing pretty simply is now filling in the blanks. What we're essentially about to tell the system is a bunch of Sumo Logic information as far as where our deployment is, giving us access, essentially AWS access to our accounts. And so what we're going to then be able to do is observe the AWS data in Sumo Logic. So that's the goal. So if we go back to our guide here, we're basically just going to go through the steps. So the first thing that we need to enter is going to be the stack name. Stack name doesn't really matter. I encourage you call it something that you can recognize and that's not obscene. I'll just call mine Josh. That's a good name for a stack. It does need to have, can't have space, can't have spaces, can't have underscores. So just keeping it simple is highly recommended. Now we need to fill in the Sumo Logic information. So we need to tell it or tell AWS how to get to Sumo, how to get to our training account. And so what we're going to do is follow the steps here. So let me see, where did my lab guide go? Oh, that's the wrong one. Sorry. Too many tabs here. All right. So scrolling down. Here we go. There we go. All right. So we entered the stack name. Now we're going to do the deployment name. Now for us, we're going to use US1. Depending on where you are in the world, you might need to utilize a different server. And the server is basically specified to the one that your Sumo instance is on. So usually for most new customers, it's going to be US2, but it might be something else. Now we're going to use the access ID and key that we just created a few moments ago. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab that ID, paste it in. Going to grab that key and paste it in. I need to specify the organization ID. So I need to tell the system or tell Sumo what account I am part of. What I can do here is just click done since I'm done with these access ID and key pairs. And on the same screen where I added that access ID or access key, excuse me, is the organization ID. And so I'm going to take that 15-digit number, paste that into the organization ID. All right, let's see a couple other settings here. I'm going to go ahead and utilize this to delete the Sumo. Let me see, do we recommend you do that? Yeah, we're going to want to keep that to true. Because what we want to do is when the stack is deleted, we want to delete everything else essentially. Now we need to give the system or the account an AWS account alias. I'm not too creative with this either, so I'm probably just going to use Josh again. Now we want to start to tell the system, what do we want to install? What do we want to set up? Well, we want to set up the AWS observability apps and alerts. Basically, we want the system to load all this stuff in. That's kind of what we're here for. So just looking at these, we want to leave 3 to yes. We're going to go ahead and provide some values for the, well, this is here, I'm just reading it really, but we're going to provide some values for the fields in the AWS CloudWatch metric sources. Remember, we're trying to bring in a bunch of different AWS sources. We're trying to bring in the load balancer data, the Lambda data, the RDS data, the API gateway data, et cetera. And so we're trying to configure all of these right now. So what I want to do here is, as it says, if we're collecting CloudWatch metrics, which we are going to, we're going to go ahead and select none for step 4. And I was going to say it doesn't matter what you put in here. It certainly does, of course. We want you to put the right values, but if you're playing with it and you think another value is more appropriate or you want to try it, but go ahead. I guess it can't hurt too much. All right, so let's see. That's step 4. In the AWS metric namespace, there already should be a comma separated list, so that should be populated. I'm going to assume it is. Step 14, I can go ahead and skip. I don't really. Wait, actually, do I need this? Yes, we actually do need to do step 14 and do it through step 13. Which rather step 14 is, yeah. What we want to do though, is we want to create a source API URL. And so to create one's quite simple. I should have showed, not should have, but this was something we could have shown in Tuesday's class. What we can do is we can go to manage data and go to collection. And what we showed you on Tuesday, if you joined us for that administration class, was we went to add collector, and you remember Odell installed the collector. We talked about hosted collectors. That was that conversation. What we can do though here is we can go to the Sumo Logic UI, and as it says, we can go ahead and manage data and go to collection. So I'm looking at my collectors. What I want to look for is a collector that shows CloudWatch metrics, sorry. So let me see if I have any in here. There should be. So here are my CloudWatch. Although actually that's not the exact one I wanted to show. Let's see. We haven't installed a collector yet, but this should be. Let's see. Did I skip a step? I don't think I did. I'm going to ignore that. I'm going to leave that blank. They're still going to be data. But I don't want to dwell on it too much. So I'm going to kind of ignore step 14. Right. Although, let me see if setup. Yeah, this isn't really what I wanted. Upload. Nah, yeah, I'm going to skip that step for right now. Let's see, we need to provide the AWS ALB log source details. And so we want to enable logging in step 5. So step 5, we wanted to make sure this is enabled to both. Let's see, a few more settings here and then we can get going. We want to create the Sumo Logic ALB log sources. So we want to make sure that's a yes. We then, in this step, we want to provide the name of the AWS S3 bucket that would be used, as it says, to collect the application load balancer logs. We can leave that blank. I think we're just about done. The rest I'm going to leave as is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run this thing. Before I run it, I need to certify or check off these capabilities, basically that I acknowledge that I am utilizing resources. So I am, so it's important to acknowledge that. But what I should then do is click Create Stack. And now my stack is going to start to be created. Now this is going to be a long process. This can take up to 10 minutes. It can take longer than that. So I'm going to let it run. I'm going to try and navigate through it and show it. I mean, to show you something creating is it's kind of like watching paint dry, but that's also the point of today's class. So, but what I have here is my stack. I should, well, it's in creation, so it's just going to take a few moments. There we go. And so what we're going to see is it starts to create. It's going to create various resources. I have, let me show. There. It's still working, but I have an old one that was utilized. So just I can use this as an example. But essentially, you see what is happening. Resources are being created. The Sumo Lambda data, the Sumo ALB data, it's being created, and now the system is knowing that it needs to bring this data over. Let's go back. It's still creating. Like I said, it's going to take quite a little while. But hopefully yours is creating as well. Keep an eye on the events to see what happens. What is going to be a bit of a bummer, I hope that word translates for everybody, is the fact that if this does not work, it's going to roll back. So what can happen, and is really the worst part, is it can get to about 9 minutes in, hit an error because maybe, well, maybe just whatever, and then it's going to roll all the way back, and then you need to restart it. So I'm going to let this go. If it works on the first try, great. If it doesn't, I don't want to spend all night troubleshooting this. But it should be this straightforward. While it's continuing, and let's go ahead and refresh just to see that it's on its way. What I should, and maybe I'm a little early, but I should eventually start to see the data in Sumo Logic. I think I'm a little early. Well, no, actually, I take that back. It's starting to at least set things up. So it's not this one, this bottom one you can ignore, but here is what is starting to take place. So the system has now created a source category for the logs, for CloudTrail, for ALB, for Kinesis or CloudWatch, and it's going to keep growing. Eventually, when it's done, it should look something like this. Well, actually, no, that's a different, that's the Kubernetes lab. Actually, I take that back. It will look, let me see if I have another example of what it should look like. Oh, I guess I don't. All right, but I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let it keep running. And yeah, that's really all I can do is let it run. Yeah, the events is what I'm trying to show is a screen that's more refreshes more frequently, but events is really, that's going to be probably the quickest, fastest to refresh. All right, and then as mentioned, once everything works, if everything works, what you should be able to do is find yours. So they're all going to be with the AWS observability prefix. All right. So let's see. Let me go back to my slides. I think we might start lab 2 while this is finishing up. So we can kind of do it 2 at the same time. Let's just go back to slides just to make sure I'm up to date. So let's see, we went ahead. Okay. Oh, my whole system's just tracking. So we went ahead, we went to that URL, went to our stack, specified the name, we did all these steps. Yeah, we don't really need to go through this again. Yeah, that's all right. So, and then this is what should occur. And then the true proof will be when you go into the collector and you actually see data coming in. When I looked at my collector, I saw the sources, and that's easy to do. Creating sources is not very hard, but making sure the data comes in is kind of not the trickier part, but it's the trickier part. So that's what we're really looking for. And then once it was all in, what we can do, and I'm hoping to display to you, is the fact that then we can use the dashboards and use the observability that's built into Sumo Logic to start to look at this stuff and see what's going on with our environment. All right, so let me see how mine is doing. It still failed. Bum, bum, bum. Now, what we can do here is I could go ahead and start to troubleshoot this. So here's the creation failed. I already have 5 trails in US East 1. I guess that's more than I'm allowed. So that's too bad. But, well, not but, that is too bad. Let me see. I thought we had another one in here that we had as a test. Just check one more time. I feel like I might have deleted it though. What would we then be able to show? And so we'll kind of just assume that the data came in properly, those stacks worked properly, is then we could go to new and explore. And what we are now viewing is that observability view. And so, for example, imagine one of these was yours, we could start to see what's occurring in your environment. So if this one had actually run properly, for me, this is John, who's one of our other trainers, so I'm just going to use his since it's here. We could start to see all this stuff about what's going on in our accounts. And that's really what we want to show, is that functionality. So I apologize, the stack didn't get installed properly. I'm not completely surprised, to be honest, although I should have anticipated something going wrong. But in this case, the messaging in CloudFormation templates is pretty helpful. So like I said, it was showing me what that error is. And so I think I just need to probably delete a resource. All right. Let me see. Let's go back to the slides. All right, let's do the Kubernetes setup. Let's give this a whirl. This one's even more verbose, but let's try it. Now, I'm kind of presupposing some information, some knowledge of Kubernetes. If you don't, that's okay as well. But like, grab my. There we go. Well, wait, it should be showing. There we go. So yeah, good. Okay, so sorry about that. So now I want to talk about Kubernetes for a little bit. Just a few minutes, set the table, and then we're going to go ahead and do the labs based on the Kubernetes. So in this case, Kubernetes, as you may or may not know, is an open source container orchestrating system, very popular. And what it allows you to do, or users to do, is what we're finding are modern apps use microservice architectures. They use multi-cloud platform. Each microservice runs in its own container, but managing all these different containers and scaling each one up or down to meet customer needs can be challenging. And so Kubernetes is a system that can help automate this deployment, management, scaling, networking, and availability of container-based applications. And Kubernetes is not a Sumo Logic thing. We didn't create it. It's just another tool out there, and that's we're showing how to use it. So, and it's a really powerful tool. The Kubernetes container orchestration allows you to easily deploy, manage multi-container applications. The tool also produces a lot of logs and metrics that need to be monitored and can help keep your app secure and optimized for performance. So there's several options for managing and monitoring a Kubernetes cluster. Since Kubernetes is open source, it's cloud native, you can manage it yourself. Many people do opt to pay for management services such as Amazon, should be on the map, such as AWS, Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Service, the Azure Kubernetes Service, the Google Cloud Kubernetes Engine. And Sumo Logic has a bunch of apps for each of these managed Kubernetes services. And as we mentioned on Tuesday, Odell showed the apps. He showed, what did he show? Oh, the audit app, the data volume app. Remember, those are just very simply queries and dashboards that you can overlay against your data to get value from and not have to create a query to get value from it. And so these apps, as a reminder, are very helpful. And here we're showing an example of some, just many of the different environments that we support. Now, observing a Kubernetes system within Sumo Logic. Kubernetes is going to generate a lot of data, which we are going to be able to utilize to gain insights and improve the performance of an app. In this case, we're going to call the app Travel Logic, but it could be any app, doesn't really need a name. The Sumo Logic Kubernetes solution is going to provide that end-to-end experience that takes us from configuring the collector and installing apps all the way to managing, monitoring, and troubleshooting the Kubernetes environment. Sumo Logic Kubernetes is going to provide visibility into worker nodes and their application logs, as well as seamlessly managing the master node, the control plane, including the API server and etcd, the kube system, the worker nodes. With the Kubernetes system, you can go ahead and monitor and troubleshoot the container health, the replication, the load balancing, the pod state. Falco events are going to be utilized to monitor and detect abnormal container and application activity. Oh, wait, that's supposed to load there. And then there we go. And then ultimately, Sumo Logic is going to allow you to ingest your full application stack. So similar stack definition. The collection is going to collect, centralize that data, and then allow you to view what's going on. Now, the setting up of collection, I don't know why this slide keeps coming up. There, that's very weird. But this is the slide I wanted to show, which is regarding the setting up of the collection for Kubernetes. So we're going to go ahead and collect a lot of data and metadata from our site to go ahead and generate data to get an understanding of what's going on. This app is going to be containerized. It's going to run inside Kubernetes. And so all our data is going to live inside the Kubernetes cluster. We're going to go ahead and set up the collection using these items in the middle. So what we're showing on the left-hand side of the screen are various data points or the types of data that you might want to bring into your system, into Sumo Logic: log data, event data, metric data, etc. Utilizing the appropriate method, Sumo Logic is going to utilize these to collect that data. So for example, the collection of logs is done through FluentBit. FluentD is used to bring in events. Prometheus is used to bring in metrics, and kind of so on and so forth. And then what's going to happen, which is quite important, is the enrichment step. What's happening with the enrichment step is the fact that the metadata is going to be applied to your data so that you can search for it within Sumo Logic. So this is how we can go ahead and start to drill down to the pod level, the deployment level, the namespace, get quite granular, because the data is labeled, enriched, and then we can search for it. What we're going to go ahead and do now is install Kubernetes and configure a Kubernetes cluster to collect the log details for Sumo Logic. So we're now about to install Kubernetes. Once again, if you don't feel comfortable doing so, completely understand. Better preparation will, or better warning will come in the future on that. A few best practices. So there's going to be several ways you can collect data from your Kubernetes cluster. FluentBit can be helped, like I mentioned, for the log collection, FluentD for the event collection. You can also create YAML configurations to go ahead and utilize those. So the YAML configuration files, like a CloudFormation template, is very simply a set of really straight text, or pretty straight text steps of what to do. The other thing you can do is you can use Helm. And Helm is going to be a package manager that's going to be very simple for utilizing Kubernetes. We're going to need to utilize, as it says up here, to use Kubernetes logs and metrics effectively. We're going to need to define those fields. Once again, that metadata, the cluster, the container, the deployment, etc. We're going to use the key value pairs at the source level. We're going to go ahead and do some parsing as well. And we're going to go ahead and need to utilize our ID and key. And so we'll create a new access and ID key. If you have the one you used earlier, great. If not, it doesn't really matter. It's, as you saw, it's quite easy to do that. So let's jump into the activity. What we're about to do, and this is going to take a while as well, is install Kubernetes, create a Kubernetes cluster, deploy Kubernetes in Sumo Logic, and then utilize the Kubernetes app to view the data. So we have the steps in the lab guide. And so I'm going to run through them. I was running through them a little bit earlier with some success. So let's see how things go today. So I'm going to go ahead and open this. I'm going to try and make this bigger. Come on. It's not getting bigger. All right. All right. But let me get the guide. And let's go through this. So we're going to need that ID and key. I'm going to set up my Mac to create a cluster. So I'm actually going to install Homebrew. In my case, I already have it installed. I'm going to install the AWS command line interface. So I'm going to need to use that through a brew install. And I think that I did that one already. Let me make sure. All right, that's running. And what I'm going to need to do next is set up the AWS CLI. So I'll go ahead and do that in a moment. That's up to date. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and do AWS configure. And now I'm going to need that ID and key pair again. I actually have one in here and I don't remember if that key is still good. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new one. I think it is, but I don't want to chance it. So preferences, add test 2. I probably should have named those a little bit better. I'm going to copy that ID, paste it in. Going to copy that key, paste it in. It's going to ask me for the region name, which is US East 1. So I'm going to leave that as is. Actually, wait, do I need to change that? I'm going to leave it as US East 1. I think that worked for me last time. And then I'm going to keep that default output format of JSON. So if it's entered in already, cool. If not, you can go ahead and specify. Then I'm going to go ahead and make sure everything is up and running. All right, great start already. Why does my access key and ID not show up? Oof. Let's see. I pasted it incorrectly. I'm pretty sure it's US East 1. I'll try US West 1, just switch it up here. JSON, and then if I do that, oof. Let me see here. Let me do that brew install of. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm making an error here. This is going to be AWS credentials. So what I need to do is get my AWS access ID and key pair. So what I'm going to do for that is I am going to, there it is. So let me go ahead and enter these credentials here. I'm going to do this off screen so I don't reveal my password. And my multi-factor. Okay. And so what I want to do here is I want to go to my security credentials. And I want to use these access ID keys. Oh, and I can only do one at a time. Delete. All right, so creating an access key. Here's my ID. Here is my key. I'm sticking with, let me see, where am I? It actually doesn't matter. I'll use US West -1 and then JSON. Now I'm going to run that guy. I'm going to get buckets, cool. So now I'm seeing my S3 data. All right, let me go back here. So I see those buckets. Now I need to run this. Yeah, while it's downloading, take a few minutes. And then finally, what I'm going to do is actually install Kubernetes on my device. So let me just make sure things are run correctly. There we go. Now install Kubernetes. I don't think I've installed this before on this machine. I have. But if it's already installed, I'm going to take that. It's a fairly recent version. And then I'm going to go ahead and install Helm, which I guess I probably have installed as well already. All right, so that should just take a minute or two to update. Yeah, cool. That's done. All right. Now what we're going to do is set up a cluster. So what I'm going to do here is, like it says, I'm going to go ahead and use this command. Come on. Oh, I need to be on the VPN. Yes. So let me do that. A lot of steps here. So. So I logged out. Now I should be able to log in. This is going to be another few moments, but okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and grab this command finally. And the one thing I'm going to change here, or not really change, but as it says, I'm going to modify the name and specify my initials. So JB123. All right, and then I'm going to run this. Let's fingers crossed. Oh, I'm missing a space. There we go. That should work a little bit better. Cool. Now it's starting to build and deploy the stack of Kubernetes, setting up a cluster. This is going to take a while. So we'll probably take a break in a moment or two. And feel free to take one, but it's gonna, let's see, it looks like it's going okay so far. Oops, there we go. Knew there'd be an issue. Let's see what happened. Maximum number of addresses. This thing is getting me again. Just want to see if there's anything obvious. I mean, this is kind of a big step here. Let me just check one thing, if there's something I can remove. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not quite sure why I'm getting that. It's digging into the wrong area. Go back to my account. No, that's not what I need. All right, so it looks like I'm hitting some sort of limit here. The maximum VPC. Let me just check real fast. I remember this happened previously. Well, I can't remember if there's an easy way to resolve this or not. I'm going to remove one of these. Let's see, which one should I pull out? No, not that one. All right, so I'm not sure which one I can delete, and so I'm not sure why it's forcing me to, not forcing me, it's not forcing me to do anything, but why it's not allowing me to, I can delete this one. Oh no, I can't delete it. All right, so I'm hitting an error. Let's see. Let me go back to the lab guide. So today's class might be a little shorter. I'm not going to troubleshoot, or I will troubleshoot this a little bit, but not too much. But let's see what can we do here? Because ultimately what I wanted us to do next is then, as it says here, set up some trace points. Although we can do that, that's lab 3. So I think with lab 2, let's see. I'm just going to check to see if there are pods up and running. I don't think so. Yeah, I'm getting, this is a whole mess that I wasn't expecting. All right, so why don't we do this? Why don't we take a break? We'll come back and then we'll do lab 3. Well, I don't even know that we'll be able to make it through all that, to be honest. But let's try that. So let's take a 5-minute break. I need to figure out what's going on here. We'll do a 10-minute break. We got 10-minute break. So go ahead, grab a snack, grab a little beverage, whatever. I'm going to work on this and just try and figure out what the heck's gone wrong. I was expecting some issues, but not so quickly. But yeah, that'll be the plan. We'll come back. We'll take a look at lab 3. We'll do our best to get through it. And then we'll take the exam and we'll do that together. We'll do that as a group because this is not going as well as I had planned. So let's come back, like I said, and we'll take a look. All right, guys, so we're back. Yeah, this is probably going to be a pretty quick session for this portion, but let's get back and let's make our way through it. So what I want to do, I wasn't able to run my Kubernetes. I don't know why it's not. Well, I mean, I do sort of see why it's not running, but I need more time to troubleshoot it. So what I want to do is I want to go back to the deck and let's just kind of talk our way through some of these things. I mean, for many of it, you've seen how programs are installed, so it's not really anything crazy new, but the idea was we would install the Kubernetes app, install Kubernetes itself through the command line, specify some specific information, describe the cluster that we want to go ahead and create. Once we do that, if things were working, we would start to see those clusters up and running, those cube spaces. Then what we would be able to do is deploy the collection to Sumo Logic. So essentially take all that data and pump it into Sumo. Then we would go ahead and utilize the Kubernetes app. So that would allow us to overlay our data, overlay queries and dashboards against our data that we had ingested. We'd view the collection in Sumo Logic, and this would have been how we did it. All right, so let's talk about the next portion. So I want to talk about open telemetry. We're going to have the same issue with the labs, but there's still some nuggets of value in here. So why open telemetry as a method to collect telemetry data into an application? Well, as a developer, an IT operator, DevOps engineer, whatever your role is, you might be responsible for the performance and health of applications that you build. And several technology providers have created agents to collect telemetry data. However, or not however, open telemetry is an open source observability framework. And so it's used to collect that telemetry data, including the logs, the metrics, the traces from distributed systems in order to troubleshoot, debug, and manage applications in their host environment. It's going to provide a single set of APIs, which is great. So there's going to be standardization of how you collect and transfer that data. You can go ahead and also collect the telemetry data from cloud native applications as well. Open telemetry is going to provide a specification for instrumentation so that you can send data to distinct backends of your choice. And then it's going to provide a wide range of ready-to-use componentry to get you started with distributed tracing. Now, one of the options that we would be discussing here is choosing the right deployment option. So there are a couple different scenarios that you can utilize. Installation is almost the same as for the official Sumo Logic Kubernetes collection, except the tracing flag needs to be enabled, and that would be part of the steps. And we'll take a look at that in the steps, whether we knew that step is something else. The process is going to follow using a Helm chart to set up all the required components. So it's going to automatically download and configure that open telemetry collector, which will collect, process, and export telemetry data to Sumo Logic. And so as mentioned, there's two deployment scenarios: a single open telemetry collector gateway for all the nodes, or running open telemetry collector agents on each node and open telemetry collector gateway. So similar on, I guess it was Tuesday when Odell was talking about the installation of the collectors, and you kind of have the centralized model. It's that same idea. So we're going to explore the first scenario today. And in that first scenario, where a single open telemetry collector is used, all the trace data from your services are going to be sent directly to a single open telemetry collector service that's running as a deployment and acting as a gateway. That single open telemetry gateway is preferred when either you're planning to test the process or you have an environment with relatively low number of pods, say less than 100 or so, or just a single host. And that's the scenario or the setup we would be doing or will be doing in the lab. If you have a larger environment, like we saw with the collectors, you might want to have a different approach at it, which would be that second option of running them on each node. Now, what I'm showing here is the setting up of the configuration for the collection of that trace data. Now, I'm not going to run this because I know my stuff is just not set up properly. We want to view that Kubernetes data, and I know my Kubernetes is not running, so I can't do that. But we're still going to be able to look into traces. So I'm still going to go through this. I'm still going to show some examples. They just won't be specific to the data we're looking at right now, which is fine by me. It's at least you get to see something. So I'm going to show these first, and then we'll go ahead and dig in and not play, but work with some traces as an example. Not necessarily Kubernetes related, just traces in general. So one thing when you have your trace point set up is you can go ahead and utilize the service map. So this service map is going to give you a high level view of your application environment. And there should actually be another, there we go, there's the service map being represented. And so what it's allowing us to start to see are those portions of the application environment. So we're starting to see some services here. We're starting to understand our architecture, and we can very easily monitor it. As you'll see, or well, you can do right now, we can go into service maps. We'll do that in a moment, and we can very simply see. In fact, let's do that now. Let's take a look at the service maps. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into Sumo. Hopefully you still have it open. If not, just log back in. But what I want to do is I want to go to plus new and go to service map. When it loads, it might give you a little description about it, which is what I'm about to do. But what the service map is starting to show us are those things that are running in our environment. In this case, we're going to utilize the example of a coffee application, a coffee service. And actually coffee, not like Java or anything, but imagine a company called Sumo Logic Coffee. Here we have those services that are involved in the process of ordering and brewing a cup of coffee. So we see things like the coffee machine, the machine service, things related to cash payment or transactions. In the service map, we actually see a bunch of different applications. So we see one over here. We see one over there. They're not related, but they're both in Sumo Logic, and so they both show up in the service map. You can use this filter up here to start to limit. In this case, I'm going to just select the coffee bar app just to demonstrate that. Within the settings here, you have a wide variety of settings. Well, not a wide variety, actually, it's a limited variety, but you do have some controls over how you determine or how the system determines what's an anomaly, excuse me. Because what we're seeing here in the service map is we're seeing these different services. For example, the coffee machine, and I'm seeing that it's red, and red is usually not good. What's being shown here more specifically is some latency. And so it's showing me that latency is occurring at 19 milliseconds, and that's 60% over normal. And that's probably something that I or somebody wants to check out. But we do have the ability to modify the anomaly detection in the service maps. We also have the ability to click on these items and zoom in or view these. So for example, this water service, I can now start to glean some information from this. Things about the latency and other details. All right, I'm going to go back to the deck. Next, I want to show service dashboards. So what I want to do here, and I want you to do with me, is go to Explore. So we're going to go to New and Explore. And what we're going to choose, and hopefully this works, and it should work, is choose the Explore by Application Service View. So we went to New, we went to Explore, we selected Explore by Application Service View. I want to select the coffee bar app again, just because that's just a better demonstration, more data in there. And what I'm now starting to see is information about my environment. I'm getting a honeycomb view. I'm starting to see here latency, different services, different levels of latency. Darker is probably more concerning. This might be something I want to check out. I see down here some of the details. Once again, more stats regarding latency and errors and requests. I also have some other dashboards up here, and we're not going to get I guess by opening them, we're already getting deep into them. But basically, we have some other dashboards that we can utilize here. I don't want to get too deep into this one here. This is actually for another class. But we can go ahead and start to dig in and find out what's going on in our environments. And this is all done, if we had done this step properly, very simply, we just told the system where our data is, or our Kubernetes data, it brought it in, and now we can go ahead and start to use these on demand. And they're auto-created. We don't have to really do anything to create this. As long as the data is there, the system is going to recognize these services and allow us to view those and zoom in on them or dig into them. So I wanted to show those service dashboards, as we call them. Let's see, what else do we want to show? Let's show tracing, because that's kind of a big deal. What I want to do with, well, let me go into it and let me describe it at the same time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to new and traces, and feel free to do this with me as well. But what tracing allows me to do is start to see each specific order. So for example, I can still show it from here. What I see here are essentially transactions. I see some for, as it says here, the coffee bar service. I see some for payment service. Whoop. 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 Too clicky here. Sorry about that. So I see the service that's being involved. I see the trace ID, essentially almost like a transaction ID. I see the duration. So this is telling me how long did this transaction take? I can see if there's errors in other aspects of this all through this view. And through this view, I can click on one of these, although these aren't the best examples on this screen, but good enough. I can start to click on these items and zoom in to the trace level. So we can actually go down to that lower level and start to see what's going on, what might have gone wrong. So all this is about is just giving you more and more insight into your environments as you can see that trend continues. All right. So I did want to show traces. It's probably, like I said, a quick overview, but I think for right now that's sufficient. Let's see, is there anything else that I can show here? Yeah, unfortunately, the lab activity comes up pretty quickly. So let's see. So I mean, I could try. Let's see. Let me just check. Where is it? Where'd my lab guide go? There it is. So let's see. So we're up to lab 3. And so once again, it is relying, unfortunately, on that Kubernetes cluster. What we can do, though, this should work for us. We should be able to participate in this lab together. Yeah, let's see if this works. Is setting up trace points in a non-Kubernetes environment. So what I'm going to do here is, yeah, we should be able to do this together. And you guys, as long as you have an AWS account, you can participate in this. What I'm going to do is point you to a specific image that we're going to utilize. So it's in the lab guide, actually. You see it here. What you can do is you can search for one of these AMIs based on what region you are based in. So this is assuming you do have access to a or an AWS account. So I'm going to go ahead and utilize mine, so at least we can see some of it performed. So I'm going to go ahead and once again log in secretly. Oh gosh, MFA again. So I've got my instance. I'm going in my AWS console. I'm going to go specifically to my EC2s. Oops. I am going to look for the public image. So I'm going to go ahead and choose AMIs. I am going to look for US East 1. So I'm going to look for this one right here. Where are public images? So I'll look for that specific AMI. Why am I not looking in public? AMIs. Oh, there we go. Public images. Paste that in. There's the one I want. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it, and I'm going to launch that instance. I'm going to I'll use the T2 large. So just filling in essentially the steps here. What else do I need? Everything on this screen is okay. Add storage. I don't need to do anything with the add storage. With the add tags, I do want to go ahead and put in a tag. It gives an example, so I'm going to go ahead and use that one. So my key is going to be my name, or the field name, and then my value is going to be my open telemetry lab. I'm going to call this 234 or whatever I put it in, just a bunch of numbers. I'm going to go ahead and configure the security group. I think I'm good on here. Oh, we need to add 8080. So I need to go ahead and add a rule. Custom TCP, port 8080, 8080 for my IP. And I think I'm good. So now I'm going to click review and launch. And that should launch it. All right, so my instance is now being launched. There it is. Cool. All right. So now what I want to do is, as it says here, I want to go ahead and view the instances. And so that's what I just did. And I see my instance running, this top one. Now what I want to do is log into the EC2 instance. So what I want to do is, as it says here, I'm going to select my instance, and I'm going to go ahead and click connect. And what it's going to allow me to do is run these to utilize the SSH client. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and then run this. Oops, why is there not the lab 2? Let me go ahead. The key should exist. Where's my PEM? And then let me try that. Okay. Is it doing anything? It looks like it's just kind of hanging out here. Why is it? Oh. I need to specify, sorry, let me do this again. I need to change this to root, not EC2 user. I think that's the issue. No, that's not the issue. What is the problem here? That should work. Yeah, that absolutely should have worked. Lab 2, that should. Yeah, that should work. I'm just going to give this another try. I don't know what's not running. Yeah, I'm not quite sure why it's not kicking in. This is not a good, something timed out. I'm going to disconnect my VPN, see if that makes a difference. I don't think it will, but. All right, well, it's not running. Just make sure it's there, it's up, it's alive. When I connect to it. 2, that's. I'm not sure. Let me see. I'm not sure why it's not running. It was running earlier just fine. But what we should be doing then is we would go ahead and let me just get back in here. So we would set up the EC2 instance. We would use the EC2 instance so that you wouldn't have to do this on your laptop. Then we would go ahead and install Java and Tomcat onto those EC2 instances, excuse me. Then we would go ahead and prepare the collector gateway, but unfortunately, if the first step's not running, it really kind of limits what we can do with those other steps. I do want to check to see if there is, let me just see if there is some other data we can use. There might be some, let me see, there might be some in here. Yeah, no, that's not, let's see. Yeah, that's my old one, but that's not what I want to show now. All right, let me get back here. Let's we can kind of wrap this up a little bit. Okay, so all right. So in summary, what we wanted to talk about today was what the Sumo Logic observability solution provides. And so ideally what it provides is that framework to create, set up, utilize those stacks through that CloudFormation template. For AWS, that's a lot easier. As you saw, I mean, I ran into a little hiccup there, but essentially you fill out a form with 4 or 5 values and you run it and it's going to bring over your data. The Kubernetes monitoring tools are certainly quite helpful. As you got to see a little bit, not really a great view of it, but we did at least get to see some data. If we look at Kubernetes, there's some Kubernetes data in here. So it is in the system. I didn't want to use that dashboard. Come on. So if we had been able to ingest our Kubernetes data, we can start to see statistics, pods that are running, pods that are not running, memory utilization, namespace stats, et cetera, a lot of things in here. All right, so what I would propose we do now is we take the exam. Yeah, so we'll do it together, or not together, but we'll stay here for you. We'll help you with it. There's going to be, you found issues in the first one. I suspect there might be a few in the other one. All this we're taking back, and we'll look at this class. But what I'd encourage us to do is do that exam. Before I do, though, I do want to show something that Harjeet, or I think it was Harjeet, pointed out or asked about earlier, were those credentials, which was a really good question. Let me show you where those exist. They're actually in the same certification portal. So as you go to get to the exam, you're going to see them or have access to them. So what you would do to find out the password for next week, come into the portal, and it should be right here. Let's see. Oh, this is another. We have so many things going on here. What I want to do here is I want to actually log in as an actual user. You can't view those things, as I think you're finding out, if you log in as a training user. You have to log in as a actual Sumo user, not just a training account. So let me go ahead and do that. So what I want to point you to is home certification. Once again, get certified. Under become a Sumo Logic expert. So this is where those credentials are going to be located. So for the general training plus analyst credentials, those will show up here. If you want the new training plus admin credentials, which you probably do, all you need to do is just send us an email. So starting on Monday, these credentials will change for both of them. The regular accounts, those analyst accounts, the password will be here. For the more advanced classes that need the admin account, just send us an email to training@Sumo Logic, and we'll fulfill that request pretty quickly.
Sure, Josh. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for asking about that. That's a great question. And then for today, what we're going to be doing is, as I think you know, but going to get certified. And then we're going to select the observability admin exam. And so register for free. And then we'll go ahead and start it. So let's go ahead and start the exam. I'm going to step away just for a minute just to kind of compose myself, grab a beverage, things like that. But go ahead and start it. As you know, previously, use the documentation. You're going to need to use the documentation. This exam is probably our hardest exam, just period. I don't know if that's good to tell you that or not. It's a very difficult exam. Yes, that's what I can say about it. So give it your best shot. Once again, I do apologize for the issues that we had today. But yeah, just didn't go well for me. And I'm sure you can relate a little bit if you've ever done a live presentation like that. So I do apologize. Obviously, if we had done those things, I think it would have been more helpful, of course, to get a fuller picture of how simple things are. But nonetheless, here we are. So like I said, go through the exam, go ahead and ask questions. Like I said, I'll step away just for probably 5 to 10 minutes and then come back. But thank you for attending. Please take advantage of, especially the Uber Eats coupon. I can't remember if it was James or Chad, but I'm going to double check on that promotion of the Sumo 6. I think we're still running it. So take advantage of that. Or let me make sure you can, but I think we can still get you that backpack. James, did you have a question?
Oh, yeah, I was just saying they're running behind with those Uber Eats things.
Yeah, so they are. And so we asked that you cut them a little bit of slack. It's one individual that's doing it. She's been a little overwhelmed with the amount of just requests we've had. So yeah, just ask for a little patience is really what we can do. But you will get them. Certainly, if you don't get them, please do let us know.
Just email training, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be the best way to do that. So yeah, if you could give us till Monday or so for you, or Tuesday.
Yeah, the whole Uber Eats experience will be new for me. So
yeah, it's a great. First it's free food, so there's nothing wrong with that. But it's very similar to the other food services. You'll get your food, get arrived. It's a good deal. So technology is fun sometimes.
Yeah, Josh.
Well, Josh, if you want to take a break, I got questions, so I'll wait for you.
Yeah, do you mind? Yeah, if you don't mind, just I need to stretch a little. But
yeah, Josh. So I have a couple of certifications. Through one single form, I can submit for multiple.
Yes. So yes, you can. So you can use that single form for multiple. One thing to keep in mind is that we can only provide 2 certificates per day. So if you send us 3 certificates, we would have to send you 2 of them on Tuesday and the next on Wednesday or whatever it might be. So that's just a weird thing about the way we can do things. But yeah.
Sure.
Cool. If you want to go ahead and start with some questions, we can go straight into that. That's fine too.
Okay. So my first question, it says organize the steps in order they should be performed according to the AWS observability deployment guideline.
So what we were referring to those is, let me see, I think I have a slide with it is really what I'm trying to find.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Again, it says 1 attempt. Assuming this is as many attempts as I
yes,
need
it is. Yeah, that's yes, it is. Let's see. I think this gets us what we need. Specifically this portion right here.
Which one?
This prerequisites here.
That doesn't quite match the answer list.
Let's see. All right, let me go ahead and pull probably the official document then.
I said it was 3412, but
No, no, let me show you where we want you to, let me see, just so many windows here. Let's see.
yeah, I got to that page, and then I
Okay.
wasn't sure which link to go to.
Yeah, organized steps and they should be formed according to the AWS observability deployment guide. So here's the guide. So first you should invoke the template. So,
Invoke template.
so first invoke, actually, no. So first sign into the AWS console. So log in, then invoke the latest AWS CloudFormation template.
Right.
Then specify the AWS region you want to deploy.
And then a response.
Yep. And then a response.
Okay.
But that's
All right.
it.
I was one link away.
No, it wasn't you. Yeah, I mean, these should be more apparent. You should have a trick angle to them. They should be more clear. So yeah, I'm noting all this stuff down. It's a growing list too, but yeah, we'll address this. Was there another one? Or do you want to just, as they come up, call them out, Chad, or whoever?
I have more. I just didn't want to hog all your time if somebody else had a question. So
All right,
the
cool,
other
cool.
one was when open telemetry collector agents on each node and a gateway. This question to me was not worded right, so I'm not sure what they're looking for.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's not really. What it's invoking is, and we'll I'll go through it with you, but what we're trying to get you to think about is this guy right here. So using one versus another, but we didn't really go, or I did a little bit with my speaker notes, but not too in depth about, let me see, I thought it was in my speaker notes. Yeah, I think I just referred to the 100 pods. So let's see, when open telemetry collector agents on each node and a gateway is, yeah, that is weird. Yeah, that's very poor.
When it's more than 100,
grammar.
right?
Test environment.
Yeah, I thought it was that third one.
Yeah. I think that's it. When there's low traffic.
And it's kind of the same thing with the gateway. If it's less than 100 pods, then a single gateway would be suffice.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Or single host, but that's specified.
Yeah, I don't think that was an answer.
No, it's not. It's part of this one, but that last option is kind of a trick answer, I think.
Okay. And then there was that one with the status quo 200. I remember at the very beginning, I think it was Jason asked that question.
Oh, James, yeah.
James.
Yeah. Let me show you what we were referring to, because that might help explain it. Let me just think how to get there real fast. Let's do this. And no, let me think. How did we get to that? Wow, just having a brain. Oh yeah, it was through service map. Here we go. Sorry. Service maps, coffee bar app. Okay, so let's look at some of these. and traces. There we go. So what were we referring to with the status code? Although it's not showing up here. They changed it.
Yeah, no, that error spans only was up there.
That's there, but this,
Yeah,
It's-
the question was, why wouldn't the error spans be there?
Yep.
why wouldn't the error spans be there? If there were no errors, oh, let me see. Because I thought it showed up all the time, even, let's see. How do I find a message that doesn't have an error? Let's see. Or a transaction. I think that's legacy from the old view. What we used to have here, it used to be a little bit different, very subtly different. In this column used to display the status code. And we would use status codes, 200 being acceptable or okay, and then other ones being bad. But you should see those codes.
That was one of the answers that about the status code of 200.
Yeah, that's a bad, obviously a bad question. Or it just need to be changed. We don't use that method anymore.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's a 20-question test, and we discussed
No.
three bad questions. I mean, that don't give you much room.
No, you're 100% correct. This is kind of sort of inexcusable internally. We'll deal with this. Yeah, yeah, 1 or 2 trick questions among 50. Okay, that's fine. But yeah, pool of 20. Yeah, 2 or 3 trick ones. Yeah, we're not giving you any chance, which is of course is not fair. Yeah, I don't really have what else to say about it. I do apologize. I really do.
Does somebody else have a question? I can keep going.
Yeah, let's keep going. I mean, we can kind of do this as a
Actually, I would prefer you keep going because I'm learning quite a bit by your question.
good. Yeah, so we keep going.
There's drag and drop the activity under the AWS solution deployment step, and I found the article, but I couldn't understand it.
So this is actually what I pointed to the wrong chart. This is what, let me find where this one is.
Is that like from the lab recap?
Yeah, it's this one, exactly. So let's see, for the correct steps.
It's prerequisites, configure.
Yeah, these also
They're
are
in the right order, right? Wait, no, they want like cloud watch, matrix sources, deployment region. Okay, I see that.
Yeah, yes, exactly. That's what we're trying to go for. Yeah.
So prerequisites
Would be specifying the deployment region.
and then configure would be the metric sources, right?
Yeah.
And then I think Lambda is the parameters.
Yep. So that's going to be right there. Exactly. And then, well, just by process of elimination, that should leave you with select checkboxes in capability section.
Okay.
So it should look something like this.
Yep.
Cool.
Match the interface to its functionality. That's the one where it has like application service view.
Yeah. So we didn't cover this. I
was
covered it.
wasn't
I
it?
touched it. I wouldn't say I really covered it. Let me. I think I should have a slide that helps helps with it. Or maybe Let's see, it should show up right around here. Let me see, do I have anything? So this is in my speaker note. Oh, yeah, I guess I kind of, no, I mentioned it. So what this is referring to is, so here's sort of the answers, but let me see if I can, so let's see, service map.
That's group them into higher. That one right there, right?
Yep. Trace view. Oh, wait, actually. Service map.
Service map to show a high level view.
Let me see which ones. Let me see what I'm left with here. Group services into higher level app. Yeah. Services application view should be services by top level. And then trace view. So it should look like that.
Display services. Okay.
And what this is, not, I don't know, it's a trick question necessarily, but it's asking you to think about a few different things. So when we go to the new and explore, we have a few different views. And so it's asking us to kind of think about those views. It's also asking us to think about the new service map. And what else? Yeah, so I guess that's it. Here's the service application view. So just as described, as labeled, just different views into the environments.
Okay. I have this next one. I just want to verify I got it right.
Sure.
Match the concept to its descriptions with the template, Slack, Kubernetes. And it's probably all wrong for me, but.
Yeah, this is yeah. Let's we can look at these together certainly. So a stack is, let's see.
That's the collection, right?
That's going to be a stack is going to be, yeah, the collection, exactly. Let's see, template is going to be, well, actually, collection of AWS is a stack. A template declares the resources you want to create and configure. Kubernetes.
I missed that one.
Yeah, here it's this, there it is. So the AWS observability solution helps isolate and solve problems with dashboards. The template is going to be used to create and configure those resources. As we saw, we kind of filled in the blanks. Kubernetes, just as a whole, is a system that automates that deployment. And then that stack is that collection. And so those terms are you're just kind of random terms from today, essentially.
All right. And then my last one was my very first question. And it is like, what is a Helm? Because we talked about installing it in the lab, and I watched a YouTube video on it, but it never says what actually is it.
So Helm is it's a tool. Let me show you kind of.
It's not the GitHub thing, right?
No, so it's actually, so it's going to help us manage Kubernetes applications. So it's essentially a package manager.
Package manager.
Yep. And so it helps us manage those or maintain those Kubernetes apps. Not a Sumo Logic thing, just a part of the Kubernetes world, I guess.
I thought I paused my test, but apparently not. Oops.
Hey, Josh.
Yeah.
I was looking at the other courses, the
Sure.
cloud security and the SIEM.
Yeah, Cloud SIM. Yep.
They look very interesting. As they're like a master schedule.
There is, no, well, so let me show you what we have. And
It seems like every week, it's been like weekly they come out.
yeah, that's what we've been doing. What we should be publishing, and this is the list, so I assume you kind of found this page already. So this is what I would keep focused on. But what we do is we usually set up classes kind of a quarter ahead. So we're actually starting right now for the next quarter. Although our quarter is a month after the normal schedule. But so we should have an updated list probably in about 2 or 3 weeks for the next 3 months. So yeah, I'd encourage you to just kind of keep an eye out there for that.
Okay, so look for a drop for several weeks here coming up soon.
Yeah, we don't really have a. Yeah, I mean that's how we do it. I can certainly email you, but I'll probably forget myself. So yeah, I would just keep an eye on that. Also, what we should do as well is we'll typically invite you to that next round. So hey, you attended these classes, you might be interested in this stuff, and so yeah, keep an eye out for that. And those are good classes. The Cloud Sim is a pretty cool product. We get hands-on and dig into it. That works very well. So I have no qualms about the technology there. And so yeah, I encourage you to join that at some
Well,
point.
I'm heavy on LinkedIn, and I got the special secret invite to the Sumo Logic group.
Oh, good.
And
Okay. Yeah, we sometimes use that. We need to use that more often. In fact, I'll start doing that. But sometimes we post in there about those upcoming classes as well.
I actually got here through the skill ups people.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I think you all did a presentation for them. I ended up on a mailing list, and that's how I got here.
Cool. Yeah. No. Well, welcome. Yeah, and that's we send out our our web and see who comes back.
Do you want to go over the colors?
The what? I'm sorry.
The colors. During the traces duration. What do colors indicate in the traces duration breakdown?
Oh, okay. So they really let's see. Do we have one with a few colors here? This one has a few. So they represent the different services essentially. This one just has 2, and also the duration of those. So in this case, this span was this whole transaction was 1.3 seconds. The first part took the majority of the time, 1.1 seconds. The second part took, well, whatever's left. So.
Each color indicates a different service, right?
Yes, service, correct.
Okay. Sorry, my dog's howling. A lot of cops. Organize the steps to install the OOTB out of the box K8's alert.
Yes.
Did we even go over that one?
No. What did? No. I mean, we didn't. I'm trying to think. It should be in the. Let's see. Where is the steps in the? Let me check on
Sorry,
that.
guys.
No,
We had the same issue. We lived up the street from fire station. Every time the fire station go off, my dog went too. But he wasn't a beagle. It sounds like you got a beagle or a basset.
we didn't do this. Let me see. All right, so let's see. Here's the answer. But yeah, this we didn't cover. If we had installed that, I should have shown the alerts. But because I didn't get that far, I skipped that. Let's see. What are the answers to this? Download. Go to that, click add, click import. Let's see, that's missing one step though.
Hey, Josh. When,
Yeah.
When they say create complete stack status, that means it's complete in both AWS and Sumo Logic, right?
Yeah, correct. So the stack would be created in Sumo Logic, in AWS using Sumo Logic. Yeah, yes, correct.
Okay. Oh, wait, it's true, false. Um, all the resources have been created successfully in AWS only. That'd be false, right? Because it has to be in both.
Which
What does
question?
it create? What does a create complete stack status? But that very first one. I went true, false, false, but
I'm thinking. Don't grab these yet. All the areas have been created successfully in Sumo Logic only. That's false.
yep. AWS would be false because it has to be in both, right?
It has to be in both. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
It's kind of a poor question.
not kinda. It is. Yes, it is. Yeah, the person designing this was trying to be too creative with it, I think.
All right. I have 2 questions left.
Okay. No, it's fine. It's fine.
The CloudTrails logs.
Yep.
The action to take to reduce ingestion volume, that would be the field extraction rules?
No, so that's not going to. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we didn't really cover that. So ingest budget would probably be the best option. With field extraction rules, what that's doing is it's not reducing ingestion, it's making the ingestion clearer. It's automatically parsing data essentially. So that just doesn't have an impact on ingestion volume. Processing rules, same idea.
I was thinking less clutter. So, okay.
Yeah. I mean, reasonable solution, but it doesn't really amount to much data volume. That clutter. It helps, but it doesn't impact size.
All right. The main difference between Kubernetes app and the control plane app.
Yeah, we didn't really.
One.
Yeah, we didn't really go. I mean, I mentioned it, but didn't go deep on it. So with the control, let me see. I just want to see.
I read it on the help thing, but they were like in different articles.
Oh, were they? Oh, that's weird. Let's see. I just want to see if I have it handy here. No, I don't. What? Should have been. I don't know what's not in there.
The control plane monitors the master node, right?
Correct.
Okay, so that's the one I picked.
So control plane.
Yeah.
Let's see. Control. Oh yeah. Oh wait. Oh yeah. These are does not monitor. This would be.
That was my answer.
Yeah, that's yeah. Oh wow, the wording on that is terrible. Yes, that's. It's like a negative with a positive. Yeah, that's just it's a bad question again, but yeah, that's the one we're pointing into.
And then on this last one, I picked 2 items. What requirements need to be in place before deploying AWS observability solution?
Select 2. So let's see, what requirements need to be in place? I
said AWS region and org ID, but it's probably not even close.
No, those are the 2 I would choose. Well, I would choose those as well. I
thought the collector one, but
it's not
required. Collector.
Yeah, but it's not required. You can still Yeah, I would go with these two. I think those are correct.
All right, I did something wrong.
Ooh.
It's not going to tell me which ones I got right or wrong this time.
It should.
Come on. It didn't.
Oof.
All right.
Did you pass and it wouldn't tell you?
No, I failed with 60%.
And it didn't tell you which ones?
Nope.
You gotta hit that thing on the side there.
It's too late now.
Oh man.
I might not pass this one.
You will.
I have a question here, Joe.
Yeah, go ahead, Harjit.
Match the Kubernetes data types to its collectors.
This one?
Right.
So this is going along with, let's see, I just want to see if I can have this. Oh, now I've lost all.
That's the like fluent D, fluent bit.
Exactly. Yep. That's what I want to show is that exact slide. Here it is, sorry. So yeah, so logs, fluent bit, events, fluent D, metrics, Prometheus, so on and so forth.
Is that all you use is a Mac, Josh?
That's what we use here. Yeah, I have a PC personally. I just haven't used it in a while, but Sumo, everybody uses Mac, so that's what we've been using.
You got Windows 10 on any of your boxes?
Yeah, I haven't gone to 11 yet.
The last update, they changed Edge to Chromium. And
Yes.
then it sucked all my Chrome stuff into Edge.
Did it really? Oh wow.
Logins, everything.
Jeez.
And I was not real happy about it. I was traumatized, really. I really think I need some counseling.
Yeah, there's Windows.
I feel violated, and if Microsoft could do it, I wonder who else could do it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, certainly. Oh,
there-
Harjit, I'm sorry. Did you have? Go ahead.
Um, okay, here's one. I think I got this one right, but I'll ask.
Sure.
Match the stack related error to its description. The S3 bucket exists. I said it. It is not present, but is referenced by some other.
Which one is, sorry, match the,
Match the stack related error.
here it is.
Maybe I missed this one.
No, you didn't. Yeah, this is very specific. Let's see here. Wow. I'm just gonna go through the room that has been exceeded. Oof. Let me check on these. I don't feel comfortable.
The delete one's easy.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's a non-empty one.
yeah.
I thought it was pretty self-explanatory,
I feel like it is, but it's yeah, I mean, it's certainly not. Let's see. Stack. No, this is the right article.
If it's a square box, they want more than one answer. Is that
Multi-select, yeah.
If you're using UDP for open telemetry, is it recommended that you put nodes and gateways, agents on each node and gateway?
Yeah.
Okay. That's the package manager, right?
Yeah. So,
Okay, that one right there, I said tracing data enables Kuberos. Is that wrong?
no, this, yeah, the first one. I think,
I'm worried. I'm
Huh.
worried because I think I just had the same answers I did last time.
let's see, what color is it? Indicating the
I think that top one's wrong.
yeah. I'll go with that.
Okay, now see that one has 500.
Yeah, and that has
But-
our spans, but here's an okay one that does not. Oh, got so many windows open. So yay. All right, cool.
Wait, you passed?
Yeah.
Oh, come on. What'd you pick on that last one, the 200?
Yeah.
Okay, I passed. I don't know what I did different. Oh,
So Josh, can I have one question here?
Yeah, no, as you saw, there's no limit. Go ahead, Harjeet.
So match the service map interface element to its descriptions.
Service. Yeah, this one. Yeah, this is kind of a tricky question. Let's see that I get it right. Sorry, I'm keep clicking on the wrong one. Here it is. Sorry. So yeah, we didn't go over these as specifically as we should have. I forgot this question existed because it's very subtle. It's talking about the shapes, the sizes, but the size is going to show the activity level. The arrow is going to show the activity going from the service to the presence, and that's a 72-hour period that's kind of reflected in that service map. The color of the service is important. That's going to show the difference between normal and an anomaly. Red is an anomaly. And then the shape is going to be used to show different, as it says here, different services. So one might be a circle and one might be a square to start to reflect the differences.
Well, Josh, I don't know when I'll see you in class next time, but I'll sign up whenever I find one.
Please do. Thanks for joining and thanks for the questions. Some of them should have better answers, but everything you guys have asked, made this interactive. I was afraid with 3 people, this would be quite dull, but I don't know, it turned into a kind of a fun week. So thanks again for joining.
Yep. Thank you guys. And tell Odell I said hi. And
Will do.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm learning like you. So, yeah.
Well, one thing I'm doing is I'm going back into my production environment and playing with Sumo Logic now, trying to, except for yesterday and today, I'm trying to duplicate some of the stuff we did in class.
Yeah, reach out, feel free to ask tech support or if you have a customer service rep type person, ask questions. But even if you want to send them directly to training, we'll tell you when it's not the right question for us. So yeah, feel free to. Absolutely.
All right. Well, you
Cool.
gentlemen have a good weekend.
Thank you. You too, Chad.
All right.
No.
I know there's only 3 of us. I'm good to go, but I'll hang out until you close up.
Yeah, I'm good, Josh.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Then I guess we'll call this the end. So once again, as I mentioned to Chad, thank you for attending. Thank you for sticking with this. Get those vouchers. Earn that Uber Eats, and yeah, thanks again for joining.
Sure. I appreciate your time.
No, you're very welcome. Thank you. I
you.
appreciate yours as well. So
Thank
thank
you.
you both.
Josh.
All
Thanks
right,
so
we'll
much.
see you next time.
Sure.
All right.
Good luck, gentlemen.
Bye, guys.